Lamar Jackson, the situation and the plot thickens. Every day it's a new wrinkle. Every day it's a new situation. It's just getting weird. And full transparency, I'm on Lamar's side on this. I tend to be on the player's side in these situations. And I don't generally have a whole lot of sympathy for teams who get surprised. Oh my God, the bill is here. We ordered all these steaks. We have to pay for them. We bought this house. We have to pay for the mortgage. You draft and develop a quarterback, and then you pay them if they are successful. And that is what Lamar Jackson has been. So the situation is very strange to me. Also because the Ravens aren't necessarily a cheap franchise. He's a league MVP. I mean, I think all of us expected him to get a long-term deal and to get paid. Now, obviously, there is the wrinkle of the Deshaun Watson deal, and we don't really know exactly what the number is that Lamar is looking for, which complicates things, along with him not having a traditional agent. So we're not getting the agent talk from Lamar's side. We're kind of only hearing from the team. But it's 21 days until the NFL draft. The Ravens have the 21st pick in the draft, and they did a draft press conference this week, and it was very, very strange how they spoke about Lamar and kind of how they silenced reporters who were trying to ask about Lamar. I understand that they're trying to focus on the draft, but to silence a reporter who is asking a question about Lamar Jackson, like, we don't even want to speak Lamar's name. It's getting a little messy. It's getting a little cringy. And I don't know what direction they're going. Is this a smokescreen to try and speed things up with Lamar? When it comes to the draft, up until the draft, Lamar still has a lot of leverage. If they do draft a first-round quarterback at the 21st pick, which I think they're being a little extreme there, that's going to feel like a reach. This doesn't seem like a draft where we're going to have a lot of stars at the quarterback position outside of the top two. What are you going to do if you don't take a quarterback? And are you going to risk using that first pick, which you really could use on a top-level offensive player? Are you going to use that on a quarterback? Have we gotten to the point where they're done negotiating with Lamar Jackson and they don't want him there anymore? That's kind of what that press conference sounds like to me. I mean, you can't even mention Lamar's name, the face of your franchise for the past 5 years, one of the faces of the NFL, a league MVP, someone who wins over 70% of his regular season games, a guy who, even though he was hurt at the end of the last season, put you in a position to make it to the postseason, even though without him, you were averaging 13.7 points per game. Who are you beating in your division with that kind of offensive production? I just don't know. I don't know where this goes. As we approach the draft and we get closer to it, perhaps the Ravens take a quarterback in the first round, and then it becomes very clear that Lamar Jackson's time with the Ravens is over. Where does he end up going? And are the Ravens really signaling that they're in a total reboot? I mean, you're starting your franchise over if you're drafting a quarterback in the first round, because you're obviously not going to have Lamar there if you do that. You might not have Lamar there even if you don't do that. I'm just confused. This is not a division where you can play around for very long. It will get away from you. Ask the Cleveland Browns. That's why they ended up paying Deshaun Watson. You have Joe Burrow, you have Mike Tomlin, and you have Deshaun Watson with the Cleveland Browns and a lot of other talent. I don't know what's going to happen there, but they are talented. The second Lamar walks out the door, you're the worst team offensively in the division. The first step is winning the division. 13.7 points per game, 320 yards total per game, 69.6% passer rating. Without Lamar Jackson, who's that beating? We're just gonna rely fully on defense. The other team's just not gonna score points. Joe Burrow's just not gonna score points. I don't know. It's weird. It's gotten very messy. It's kind of unique for Baltimore. That is an organization that, is pretty consistent, wins at a high level. It's really respected around the league. I just don't know what's going on here. Is Lamar asking for so much money that it's just, we've passed the point of reason? I just have so many questions. And I know I've asked a lot of questions here, but I have these questions. It just doesn't math for me. This is Lamar Jackson. And the injury thing is a concern, of course, but are we just ignoring the production? Are we just going to ignore the wins? You can give me the postseason, but you don't get to the postseason without winning regular season games. That's how that works. I don't know what Baltimore's doing. I would be very shocked if they ended up taking a quarterback in this draft, but I will say the draft just got a little spicier, because if they end up doing that, where is Lamar going to go? When you look at the teams that are in the quarterback market, some of these have already said they're not interested. The Falcons, they're going with Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. The Commanders, Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett. I mean, the Texans are going to draft someone. The Colts have now said they're interested in drafting someone. The teams are coming off the board. So either the Ravens are fully calling Lamar's bluff here and saying that they could possibly draft a quarterback at their spot, or this holdout's going to go all the way into the season and it's going to continue to be messy. I'm here for the storyline, but I got to say, I do feel bad for Lamar, and I feel bad for Ravens fans. This is a lot of uncertainty going into next season. So last night, the Lakers, they looked a little rough. Took a loss to the Clippers, 125-118. And I thought they might. I was actually pretty surprised that LeBron and AD played at all. And when they did actually play, that they played as many minutes as they did, considering they were coming off of a road game that went into overtime. But LeBron played 35 minutes, AD played 32 minutes, and they lost, and they looked tired, and it got away from them, despite LeBron being able to put up some numbers. Sometimes it can just be a reason. They gave it their best go. They've been on a long road trip. I'm more disappointed in their role players not stepping up. LeBron and AD being tired is completely understandable. You're on a back-to-back. It's a long road trip. You didn't get a lot of sleep. Schroeder gave you 2. Rui gave you 4. You'd want a little bit more from D'Angelo Russell, only having 15. But here's the scenario for the Lakers. So they're now in the 7th seed. If everything stays the same, they would play the Pelicans, win 1 game, and then they play Memphis, or lose and play the winner of Timberwolves Thunder. And if they win that, they'll play the Nuggets. But they're still in a position to get the 6th seed. So if they won last night, they would have locked in the 5th seed. They're still in a position to get the 6th seed. If they win their next 2 and Golden State loses at least one of their last 2, then they will have the 6th seed because they have the tiebreaker over Golden State. So I know I've just said a lot, but with the play-in game and in this part of the standings, it gets a little weird. If they do that, they would end up playing the Kings with the 6th seed. But regardless of how all this plays out, I still think that the Lakers are dangerous in the postseason. I don't know how far they'll go. I think it'll depend a lot on health, obviously. Can Anthony Davis and LeBron stay healthy throughout a long postseason if it ends up going that way? Will the role players step up consistently? Obviously, they didn't last night, but role players get tired too. So perhaps it was just an outlier. They have been playing well overall. They had won 4 straight going into that. But I don't know if maybe I'm just being a little scary with this. The Lakers, the Warriors, and the Suns are just the scariest teams to me. And it's because I've seen them do it. I've seen them go through a long postseason. I've seen 2 of those teams win championships. They have veterans that have won championships before on the roster. They know how it goes. Some of those teams have excellent role players who have done that as well. And look, you are what you are until you're not. I know teams like the Clippers feel very dangerous, the Grizzlies, the Nuggets, who we completely just write off because we haven't seen them do it before. So I think that is, and I hate using this word, so I'm actually not going to use the word fair. I think it's a bit reasonable not to write off the rest of the West, but you are what you are until you're not. So until you make it to the finals, until you get over that hump, then you are a team that has something to prove. The Lakers obviously are a newly assembled rest of the roster. This isn't the exact roster from the championship run. We know that, but they obviously have LeBron and Anthony Davis there. So I'm really curious to see how the West ends up playing out, but I wouldn't react too much to that Lakers loss last night. It is reasonable that people would be tired. Adults do also get tired if you don't get your proper amount of sleep. I'm not the best on air if I don't get the proper amount of sleep. I can't imagine having to perform in a game. I know it's their job, but these things do happen. So I wouldn't overreact too much to that loss last night, but let's see how the rest of the games play out. And I can't wait for this postseason, particularly in the Western Conference.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.